Mr. Jones?
Calvin Jones, 100 Roman Drive, Springfield, Illinois. Just given that I only have 5 minutes to maybe touch on a few issues. First was the explanation as to why the ordinance was vetoed by the mayor in terms of depreciation of property. I wanted to address that issue. I have 2 poster boards to just pass around to the members just to take a look at, and all this show that many of the properties in Southtown are in pretty good shape, but there's a few that aren't in good shape. And Evans Mason's property in the back and George Sinclair properties on 11th Street as well as South Grand are in deteriorating condition. And the point here being that with the flight from Southtown out west and with the current existing deterioration of the buildings that's there now, my program participants or the program itself has very little impact on the depreciation of property in that area. In terms of the business impact, it's claimed by some of the businessmen, George Sinclair and some of the other businesses claim that business. They say that Southtown is back. At the same time, they say that the ATC participants impact business and customers. You can't have it both ways. If business is vibrant, then there's no impact. If there's impact, then business wouldn't be vibrant. Mr. Sinclair has announced to the media on 4 or 5 occasions that Southtown is back and they're doing great business. Glass Avenue, the shop, Evans Mason's, Dumb Records, Bourbon Street, Dumb Records Recording, Liberty Tax. They all do good business. They're not impacted at all. The other issue is the risk to the children that attend skate skating over in this area. We consistently have maybe 42 bands in one showing, maybe more, maybe less. We've had thousands of children that have passed through to listen to music. Yet there is not one report of abuse and neglect, not one report of disrespect, not one report involving assault, vagrancy, any crime whatsoever to any of the children. In fact, if you come to one of those events down there, those kids just walk right by you and they do what they do. They're not worried about whether or not someone has a criminal record or if they're in a house trying to get their life together. Kids just stigmatized the way we do. They're still coming to skanks. Even with this high level of publicity, they're down there every day doing what they do. They're not worried about it. You know why? Because they haven't been impacted, and they never will. This whole issue comes down to a property conflict between me and George Sinclair. We've had an easement conflict since 1997 when I bought the building. It's carried over all the way into the city council meeting, and that's a shame. I understand there's some concern about what could happen tomorrow. There's a lot of social problems that exist on the east side in this ward. Prostitution, murder, drive-by shootings, gang activity, drug abuse, high spread of HIV. The little 3 guys that work in our program, they have nothing to do with the bigger social problems in this community. We can't sit here and, for 1 minute, relate the presence of 3 parolees to the bigger social issues in this community. There's no cause and effect whatsoever. With all the crime that happens in this community, there's not been 1 man singled out from my program that have participated in those crimes. Normally, when there's an impact on the community, we pretty much know who's doing it. There's just no record that these guys have done any harm whatsoever to the community members, to property. There's no burglaries on record. There's no assault on record. There's no robberies on record. They haven't even spit on the sidewalk. We don't even have that on record. It just doesn't exist. So the whole notion that it creates a problem, it's wrong. They don't create a problem, and the records indicate that. So I ask you to veto. I ask you to override this veto based on that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Next, we have.
Mayor, can I ask a question, or do you want to wait till the speakers are done, or what?
I mean, we've got 17 of them.
Okay. Well, I had a question for Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones,
Just for Mr. McLaughlin, this zoning, if this zoning relief was granted, how many parolees would Mr. Jones be allowed to have in his premises?
He could have 5.
5. Would that be would that include the supervisor, or would that be the supervisor plus 5?
You could have the supervisor. I mean, talking about living there?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5.
So he could have 4 parolees and 1 supervisor would
Yes.
be the max.
Excuse me, that's 5 on Jackson and 3 on 11th Street.
Correct.
So
He's only got 3 on 11th Street right now.
3 on 11th.
But if the zoning, I understand he has actually only 2 people there right now.
Only
correct?
2. Yep.
But if the zoning relief was granted, my question is, if the zoning relief was granted, if the veto was overridden, what's the maximum number of parolees he could have on 11th Street?
Yeah. I believe it's 5.
Plus the supervisor, or would that include the supervisor?
It says you can have 5 people living there as a family.
Okay, so that'd be 4 parolees and 1 supervisor.
Yes,
Correct?
That'd be correct.
Mr. Jones, you only intend to have 3 parolees there at maximum?
We have sleeping quarters for only 3. At no point would we have the desire to go over 3.
Now, it's my understanding that because this is a veto override, we can't put any conditions on this zoning relief. The council can just vote this, either vote to override or vote to sustain the veto. Is that correct, council?
That's correct. The
So-
time to make amendments would have been when the original motion, or the original ordinance was being considered by the
Would you
council.
give this, if the veto was overridden, would you give this council an assurance that you will not have any more than 3 parolees in this facility?
Yes, I will.
Now, I also noticed it seemed that a lot of the problems, or complained of problems, were as a result of interaction between your parolees and the people that are using the facilities of Mr. Sinclair, because the exit and entrance is there in the back. But I noticed you had a exit and entrance on 11th Street as well, correct?
Yes.
But you don't use that exit and entrance.
Not currently, but I am not against using it.
Okay. Well, if the council, if this veto was overridden, will you give us an assurance that you would stop using the back entrance and have your parolees only use the entrance on 11th Street?
Certainly.
All right. Thank you.